The most masculine men in society are making single moms and they're in jail.
Hopefully I'll be blessed with a son who would also look to protect me. Or, and I'm not kidding, like this is what life is for. This is
Where do you live? What Midwest?
Scammed.
I feel like, so when we go back to, so I asked you the traits for masculine things, okay? So here's a couple of things that I have to say for this. So one is, I think the protection thing is a cope. I think that when we talk to women and we find out, like, why do you like men? If you're trying to make a value proposition, you're trying to make an offer to a woman, and as a man, you're like, well, I can protect you. Like, I don't think it's a very valuable thing where it's like, okay, like I'm a woman, I'm navigating like the dangerous streets of DC on the daily basis and I need a man to protect me. Like, I think that's kind of like a nice fluffy thing on the side that maybe you could feel a little bit safer. But I don't think that like just being a protector is going to be like, I'm very strong and now I should be able to go out and get a wife. I don't think that's ever going to happen traditionally. Or I'm generally
those are maybe used to be valued.
Yeah, maybe they used to be valued, but like in today's society, like I don't think that like selling protection like you're a bodyguard is a thing. Also, a second thing, I would even say personally, I'm gonna personally attack you, but I want to bring this to personally because you brought up your personal life. I don't know if you necessarily value those things in terms of like being like a personal important buy-in to you because your husband is so much older than you. Isn't he gonna fall out of physical capability of providing this protection if he ages out of being able to do hand-to-hand combat or weapons training and everything? Like, isn't that something that at some point you might actually be the one in that situation? I'm guessing you were in the military, you could probably handle a gun, you probably know a fair bit yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so here's the thing, right? He is older. Now, he's still very strong. I think that also we don't see a group of men that are from age 50 to 70 that are physically fit, that have been working out for decades. They totally exist and they're capable. The only issue that I could really think would be eyesight. Even strength-wise, you're able to retain testosterone. We have our very specific dietary, guideline that we follow in our house. So testosterone's fine. But like he can still be sharp. As long as he can see, he can still fire a weapon. He trains with men that are much older than him often. However, like, will there be a time where he can't protect me? Yeah, probably. Hopefully I'll be blessed with a son who would also look to protect me. Or, and I'm not kidding. Like, this is what life is for. This is what men
you really
are for.
You really think about this? Like, I need a son to protect me in the world. Like, is this actually like a day-to-day?
Where
do you live? What Midwest? Oh, come on. Your son's not going to protect you from a scam on the phone from some Indian guy locking your OS down and saying, I need $50 or I'm going, like, come on. This is not really what your sons are for, right?
That's real. That happens to old ladies all the time.
It happens to old men too, though, no?
Yeah, well, I mean, I might only have daughters, okay? But aside from that, I would think that my husband has the foresight to be like, look, honey, I can't really protect you like I used to. We need to get you going to the range. And he's going to take me. Like, this is all planning here. Now, if he gets hit by a bus tomorrow, like, okay, I'm SOL. But, I don't think that this is like a cope about men being protective of women because it's about what makes you wet. Right? And like, will we go for a safe man who can't defend his family physically or with weapons? Yeah, probably for security reasons. Am I going to be able to be faithful to him 10 to 15 years down the road? I don't think so. I think that's a really big ask.
I guess really? When I think of the traits that you listed, there was, broadly speaking, there was the protection thing, which is, I feel like that can't be a major draw. Just as from what I've seen of you, I feel like there's probably got to be something more there. And then the second thing you listed, I thought was really interesting. You said you can solicit advice or feedback if you've got like an issue, like making decisions or something. I would argue that's a feminine trait. Being able to listen to somebody, being able to be emotionally or intellectually responsive to somebody's needs, and then giving feedback based on what they're saying. I think that largely speaking, that's considered like a more feminine thing. Like a woman asking her husband advice on some particular thing, I don't think would be a traditionally masculine thing in most men's eyes. Not to say that it's good or bad. Well, I would consider that good, but...
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to give other people time too.
Sure.
So. Yeah, so I understand we're not like living in caveman times where dinosaurs are not, whatever the fuck's chasing after us. But you agree that there are dangers like in society, right? And there is like a physical difference here. And so those physical differences sort of inform the reason why men have the roles of being the protector. And doesn't that make sense, right?
I don't acknowledge that. No, I don't acknowledge that.
You don't
think like at the bar some guy is being aggressive and like
I think the vast majority of women are not going to be in scenarios where they need like a man to protect them unless they're like going out and starting fights. I don't think that that's a normal thing for most people. No, I don't think so.
I just disagree then. I think that does come up, and I think when it comes up you should be ready not only to protect a woman but also your children, right? I mean, that's an element here as well. Because children are vulnerable, they can't defend themselves, and being able to have that sort of protection mindset and the physical capability of doing so, that to me seems like a perfectly fine principle to follow and something that is good to encourage in men. And when we don't, we get problems, right?
If
I mean,
men
every
don't,
couple that was attacked, I'm sure didn't think they were going to be attacked. Like, you're not planning for what is most likely to occur. You're planning for the exception to the rule, that one bad night.
You're not planning your entire life's future relationship and your family and everything around a potential exception.
It's one part. It's
The
one
men
part.
that you know, like the men that I know, like I know an atheist anarchist who is fully prepared to physically protect his family and also do that with weapons.
That's fine, but I'm just saying that, like,
be your community.
You said you lived in the Midwest. I lived in Omaha, Nebraska, and Council Bluffs for my entire life. I don't know where all these people that are getting. Maybe there's really, really rough neighborhoods where some of you guys are just like walking. Chicago, by and large, is a peaceful place to be. There are some parts that are dangerous. Same thing with Detroit. I spent a lot of time in Chicago, a lot of time in Detroit. Most of the city is fine, right? There are parts that are sketchy. Same thing with LA. Like, most of the city's fine. There might be some spooky homeless people in some areas, but it's not like Chicago's like, I got to call a friend because we only travel in groups of 7 or more when we walk to work or something, right? I don't think it's that crazy. But maybe that's just my perspective, right?
The average modern person has a lot of tools at their disposal that they can use to minimize risk of danger in their life. And so having this burly security guard follow you around and making that like your primary objective in finding a partner just is obviously, it's irrelevant.
It doesn't have to be primary. It could be one element, right?
It could be one element.
It could be one element.
I do agree. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that a dude that's shredded that could kick like 3 people's ass, that's going to be an attractive guy physically, and there's going to be like little. I don't disagree with that. But whenever I push on like what are the masculine traits men need to work on, one, we're talking about a guy that's like a top 1%er there that can like take on like multiple adversaries. So it's not realistic for most men to aspire to. And two, it's like the first thing that everybody gives. And when I hear this, I'm like, holy fuck, are we like in Mosul right now? Is there like fucking ISIS around the corner where you're planning your relationship and shit? Where 99% of the time, oh fuck, there's a really good rule for buying shit in your life. And it's like the 10-99 rule or something. Like, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like, you spend like 99% of your money on the things that you spend like 99% of your time on, right? So you get a good bed, a good chair, whatever. The idea that we're planning our relationships around like these exceptional one-off circumstances, like how do you feel about your husband? Like he's a really shitty communicator, he's really abusive to me and everything, but man, if we ever get into a fight, he's gonna f somebody up. Like I've never heard anybody say that my entire life before.
Well, because it's a caricature. That's why you haven't heard it. It doesn't make any sense. Just because a man is dangerous doesn't mean that he's inherently malicious. It's just that he's capable of ending somebody's life who's trying to harm his, not just his woman, but his children. I wrote an entire article about this, and there's women that agreed that these traits are attractive as well. I think that women who want masculine men, I think some women are not able to compete for a masculine man or are not feminine enough for him. You know what I mean? Because it requires a dynamic in the household. How is he supposed to lead if you're constantly dominating him? So for those women, for masculine women or women who are just just not in touch with the dating market, yeah, they might end up with some feminine men that they're going to complain about until the end of time, and that's okay. That's not typically what I advocate for, but it's going to happen to majority of folks. Like, not everybody is going to get someone that they're attracted to in the long term.
What do you think the most masculine men are doing in society? The most masculine men in society are making single moms and they're in jail.
Okay, you're talking about
that's
the
their
very
new false
extremes.
masculinity.
No, that's the traditional honor culture, man. That's as traditional as it gets.
No,
Violence on the street.
Single motherhood is traditional?
It is the most traditional form of hyper-masculinity. Is women without a care in the world and then getting into violent altercations and ending up in jail. Of course, these are the most masculine men.
Triad.
Sure, but I'm saying that is like the most hyper-masculine, like...
So
when all you're giving me is like protection and ability to fight, yeah, that's of course what most people are thinking of, right?
So I also am questioning. Hold on, I do have a question for Ali as well. You're advocating for, increased femininity in these relationships. You're anti-feminism, and yet
being wet when a woman sees a man could die for her is one of the most disgusting and heinous things I think I've ever heard in my life.
Very emotional, and he might talk with a little lisp, and he's kind of gay, blah blah blah. It's usually a guy that's a fucking emotional wreck.